So I had to walk from Aldama. You know, I still was several hundred miles away from the Texas border. And well, what can I do? So I just started walking and walking and walking, well into the night. You know, I mean, I walked until I couldn't physically walk anymore. I just kept walking and walking and walking well into the night. And finally I got so tired that I just I had to stop. I didn't have, like I said, a tarp, nothing. They stole everything, you know, nothing to put on the ground to sleep, or mosquito net or anything for mosquitoes, because it was hot, you know, at that time. I think it was during the summertime, or yeah, it must have been during the summertime. And but so I just lay down. The highway, as those of you who go to Mexico and know that at nighttime the highway shut down to just about nothing, no cars, nothing. I mean, especially rural highways. It was a major highway, but it was the traffic had all shut down because it's dangerous in Mexico at night for the animals that are the cows and whatever that wander under the road, as well as criminals. But so there was hardly any traffic, and I thought, man, I just got to lay down for a little while. You know, I'm just tired. So I just literally lay alongside the road. I didn't lay on the asphalt, but in the weeds, you know, right up against the wall, up against the road, and just lay down to get a little shut-eye for a little bit, to rest a little bit so I could continue to walk. And somebody, I don't remember if a car went by or not, but I guess it must have, somebody must have seen me. Because a little while later, in fact, I don't think I was laying down more than 10 minutes, 15 minutes, 20 minutes maybe, I don't know. But I got up and just sat up. When I look down the road, and here I see this light, this bright light, you know, that's coming down. It's sort of like moving the light on either side. They were looking for somebody. I know they were looking for me. And what it turned out to be was a tow truck that had this big light with the Federal de Caminos, the federal highway police, were behind him. So I thought, well, whatever, let's see what happens here. You know, always the hope that maybe they'll give me a ride. Whatever, but let's see what happens. So I just remained, but I wasn't laying down now, I was just sitting alongside the road. So they come up, and finally the light spots me. I mean, it was bright, it would have blinded you. So I had to literally cover my face, you know, and I put my hands up, because these assholes, they don't care. You're like a, you know, I'm sure somebody thought it was a dead person laying there, but when they could see that I was alive, you think they would have taken that light off? No. You know, so, you know, so I just covered my face. The tow truck goes by, the Federal de Caminos, the federal police, they didn't even effing stop. They just looked at me. Surely they're thinking, ah, it's un loquito. In Mexico, homeless people or hobos or people that walk along highways, whatever your background, they're all considered to be loquitos, which is very, very cruel. But this is what they call them, loquitos, little crazy people. You know, you're crazy. You're crazy to walk. I mean, that's the mentality. You're crazy to walk. So surely, I know without a doubt, the police were thinking, oh, it's just some loquito. You know, they're sitting alongside the road. Didn't even stop to ask me if I needed help. They could care less, and certainly didn't offer me a job. They just took off. Well, anyway, so I continued my walk on and on and on. I get to, and I can't remember the name of the place now, but it was like a crossroads, still out in the middle of nowhere, because in this zone, those that are familiar with this zone between Aldama and Sota La Marina to San Fernando to Matamoros, towns are far and few between. I mean, literally 50, 60, 70 kilometers between little towns. And but that there was this Pemex, you know, gas station, Pemex gas station, that was right there at the corner, but out in the middle of nowhere. I guess there was a small, tiny little village in the bush alongside, I guess, but basically it was in the middle of nowhere. When I got to this gas station, they had a chair, like I guess it must have been a bus stop, I don't know, but they had like a bench, you know, along the highway. And I thought, I'm going to sleep there. There we go. I got a clean place to sleep tonight, you know. And that's what I was thinking. I didn't care, you know. I mean, I needed a place to sleep because I hadn't slept good in the last several nights. I thought, there's where I'm going to sleep, you know. And so I started to hitchhike. I hadn't hitchhiked up to there, but I was really tired of walking. And so I started to hitchhike. And nobody gave me a ride. Nobody. In northern Mexico, they don't give you a ride. And this was, like I said, about 20 years ago. Today, it's even worse. The violence is quite a bit more severe. for sure they would consider you crazy to even think about walking or hitchhiking today in northern Mexico and in Tamaulipas. But at that time it wasn't quite that bad, but nobody gave, truck after truck passed, cars, nobody gave me a ride. But hey, what else are you going to do? I thought, well, I'm not going any further today. I can't walk anymore. I don't want to walk anymore. I'm sleeping on that bench. That's my home. I was looking at that bench, and that's my home tonight. I'm going to sleep on that damn bench. And then tomorrow I'll continue walking. But meanwhile, I don't have nothing to do. I'll just hitchhike. I didn't have no money for food or nothing. But I wasn't even thinking, you don't, when you go even a couple days without eating, you really don't even, you stop thinking about it. Your body says, hell, I guess you're not going to eat, so we'll stop, you won't be hungry anymore. I didn't even think about food, really. I mean, I was hungry if I would have thought about it, but I didn't even think about it. I was just thinking about sleeping, Nobody gave me a ride. Then after a while, this man comes walking from the Pemex, from the gasoline station, starts walking towards me, and I thought, here we go. He's going to tell me I can't stand here. That was my thought. I mean, he's going to chase me away. But whatever, So he comes up to me, and the first thing he says to me is, "Tiene hambre?" Which he was asking me if I was hungry. I said, yeah. Of course. Yeah, I'm hungry. He said, "Vente." He took me over to his house. He had like a little shack there. I guess he was the encargado, they say in Mexico, the guy in charge of the gas station. And he had like this little shack, really it was just a shack, right next to the gas station. And he says, "Come over." When I get there, his wife, I guess it was his wife, the lady there, had already had a plate of food ready. And I can remember it to this day. It's a meal. These are types of meals that you don't forget. And I remember it to this day. It was huevos con chorizo con chile in tortillas, hecho al mano. I mean, handmade tortillas with eggs and chorizo, or like sausage, and with some hot sauce. It was the most delicious thing I ever ate. I mean, it was the most delicious food I ever ate. And so, but that wasn't the half of it. After I got done eating, it always breaks me up when I think of this. After I got done eating, wait, I'll be all right. He brings me this happened 20 years ago and it still breaks me up, man. He brings me a little container that had coins in it. That he had collected from all the workers and from all the people that come to fill up their car. He had been begging for me and had collected all these coins. And he hands me these coins. Well, it was very emotional, right? And then he says, now you can return, puede regresar a tu puesto, which means that you can return to your spot and continue hitchhiking, but that he would, meanwhile, try to get me a ride. I guess he had asked me some questions about where I was going, whatever, and I told him the story. But, and I said, okay, thanks, and so I went out and continued to hitchhike, but in a short while, this man, I remember he was a veterinary, he had a real nice car. He was a well-off veterinarian, because this is a rural agriculture area, and veterinarians, it's a big job in that area to take care of the cows and the animals that people have. And I remember he had a nice pickup truck, not compared to the veterinarians I knew back in Guerrero that had old beat-up vehicles. This was a nice late model pickup truck, this guy. And I had seen this guy before. I remember because the name of his company or whatever was painted on the side of the truck. And I'd seen him before, but he didn't give me a ride. But I guess he came back to get filled up again with gas, and I guess the guy had said something to him. So now he decided that he would stop. And he stopped and asked me if I wanted a ride. I said, okay. And he gave me a ride as far as Soto La Marina, which was a good distance away. in Toda La Marina, with the coins that that they had given me, it wasn't enough to pay the entire bus fare all the way to the Texas border, but it was enough to pay for a while. So I thought, well, what I'm going to do is, I guess, let me think here. I guess I paid the fare to San Fernando, if I remember correctly. I bought the ticket to San Fernando. And then in San Fernando, the money wasn't enough to, I mean, there was really no other stop until Matamoros, the border. I mean, it's a long, I guess it's a couple hundred kilometers, a long stretch, and there's really no other stop. But I still had some more money. And so I had asked the bus driver, I said, look, you know, here's money. Take me as far as this money will pay for the fare, and then just let me off on the side of the road, and then from there I'll continue on. It'd get me a hell of a lot closer to the border. And so, you know, and I gave that. So the bus driver says this was, you know, in Mexico, you got, you know, your real honest types, and you got your, you know, slippy slidey types. Well, the slippy slidey types are real good for poor people, you know, I mean, because they can help you out. And your real American type, you know, strictly by the book honest types, you know, well, yeah, they're not. And the first bus driver that I asked, I guess he was that time, he says, well, he says, I'll tell you what, I can't do it here in the terminal. They might see me and blah, blah, blah. He said, so, because I was paying the cash directly to him. And he says, get off and walk to, he told me the corner to walk to, and wait there in the corner, and when I go by, I'll pick you up, you know. Okay, so I did that, walked a couple blocks, waited in the corner, waited for his bus. You know, I remember the number of the bus. Boom! His bus goes zooming by. No, he did not stop for me. So I thought, well, we'll try this again. Walked back to the bus station, and any bus, the next bus, at that time, there were quite a few buses, like every hour, that went to Matamoros. And the next bus that I seen that was going to that route, they all stop in San Fernando. I went up to but I waited until the bus driver was off the bus, and then I quietly went up to him, and I offered the same thing. I explained to him that I was trying to get to the border. This is all the cash I have, and, you know, take me as far as this money will take me, please, you know. And the second one let me do it. He took the money, let me get on the bus, and it took me. And I said, you know, hey, when the money runs out, it's all right. Just pull off the side of the road, and you know, I'll walk the rest of the way. And we're gone, and we're gone, and we're gone, and we're gone. And I'm thinking, well, I knew approximately what the value of the money was, and, you know, as far as the bus ticket. And I thought, any time now, he's going to stop this bus and let me off. I was waiting and waiting. We're gone and gone and gone, and he still wasn't stopping until finally I see the sign on the highway that says, Bienvenidos a Matamoros. Welcome to Matamoros. He took me all the way to Matamoros, even though the money wasn't enough for the bus fare. And I was very, very grateful to this, you know, for this man. There are very, very good people in Mexico, I'll tell you. Very, very good people. And I made it to Matamoros. And to end the story, I mean, that was the end of the adventure. But I had to cross into the U.S., and I remember it was late at night. It was now late at night that I got into Brownsville. Had to cross the bridge. I remember crossing the bridge. American immigration. I'm not gonna hablo con pelos en la lengua, they say in Spanish. How do you say it in English? You know, I'm going to tell you the basic truth of my feeling, because it's the truth. American immigration people are ASSHO. You can fill out the rest. They are, without a doubt. You know, and I didn't have nothing. I didn't have a backpack. I had nothing. I had no money, and just came walking up. But I was an American citizen. I don't remember. I just don't remember. I think at that time you didn't need to have a passport to come into the U.S. I believe not. No, I guess not. And I don't remember what kind of ID I had, or if I had ID. I must have. You know, I must have had ID, because they only stole my backpack, but my pockets I had. I just don't remember, but I must have had ID or something. Maybe I had a passport. I don't remember. But when I go through the immigration thing, the guy looks real hard at me. You know, like I'm a criminal. You know, I mean, you're just an innocent person. And that's the way they look. They're ASSH, you know. You know, and he looks real hard at me, and he tells me to take everything I have out of my pockets. You know, there was nobody else, because it was like maybe 2 o'clock in the morning when I was crossing over. There was nobody else around. And he says, take everything out of your pockets. You know, so I did. I didn't have nothing. And I showed him, and then with his hands, he starts patting me down, sort of like they do, like the Mexican authorities do. But this was an American immigration guy. You know, and he says, where's your money? You know, he almost like yells at me, where's your money? I ain't got no money. He said, well, what are you going to do? Where are you going to go? I don't know. But I'm in my country. You know, I mean, I'll find a way. And he, like he didn't want to let me in. But you can't deny entrance to a U.S. citizen, to the country, a U.S. citizen, right? And it's like he just looks at me. He was a real how many times are you going to tell you, you know? And he just looks at me like he doesn't want to let me in. But there's nothing he can do about it. And he gave me the hardest look. And then finally just like motioned me through like he didn't want my ass in the U.S. You know, piece of crap. You know? Well, that was that. Found an abandoned house. I did. I walked in Brownsville and I found an abandoned house, and I know exactly where that house is. In fact, I'll be in Brownsville soon, and I'm going to go check and see if that house building is still there. This was 20 years ago. It may not even be there. But I found this abandoned house, and that's where I slept that night with the mosquitoes biting me all night. I remember because I didn't have nothing. But that's my story. Have a nice day, people. What a story. My journey 20 years ago on foot and with rides and with help and getting assaulted through Mexico, from southern Mexico to the U.S. border. Have a nice day. This is Rishayan.